Welcome to the Jaico Podcast. And today we're talking about the productivity mindset. So let me begin with this question for Aarya here. How has this book helped you in terms of productivity?
Definitely. I mean, like in everyday life, there's so many tiny tasks we have throughout the day that we kind of, when you come back from work, you don't really feel like getting them done because you're genuinely just so exhausted. But then one trick I learned is you just ask yourself, how long is this going to take? And if it's a task that it just takes like 5 to 10 minutes, I'll just get on with it. Just get that task off the list.
Right, and that's really helpful, especially there are some bits about the flow state and how you can get in it. That I think is completely a game changer. Because what helps, I mean, you guys should definitely read the book, but what I've learned is it has these mini tips and tricks that can help you get in the flow state. Even on days, like you said, when you're tired and you don't feel like doing anything. Of course, you work at your workplace, wherever, that's the professional thing, but you want to work on your productivity outside of work as well, right? And getting in the flow state for that particular time is really essential. And this book really, really, really helps you do that. But what about you?
Yeah, I'll say it's the part about prioritizing tasks, which I found very interesting, especially the use of the Eisenhower matrix. So I think that really helped me with work, but also larger priorities in life overall, just sort of helping to plan and think about those things. But I'm interested in finding out how you guys employ productivity hacks, or what techniques do you have to use while you're at work to make sure that your day is very efficient. What about you, Quinton?
I actually use the 80-20 rule a lot, right? It's called the Pareto principle.
Right.
I think we've all heard of it probably.
Yeah.
But what happens is if all of our work tasks encompass around 100% of, let's say, a productivity in a day, 20% by default, it's a universal law somehow, 20% of our tasks give us 80% of the results. Yeah. So what I do is I pick the 20% most essential tasks and then do them instead of doing the 80%. Of course, the 80% are sometimes redundant tasks that you are able to do them quickly, but focus on the 20% first, and then I think you're good to go.
Interesting. What about you, Adi?
I tend to make lists and like you said, prioritizing tasks. I actually try to think of the snowball effect where, when you get one task checked off the list, and you keep feeling like, like one win, and then you keep feeling like winning again and again.
It fades in.
Yeah. So once I have one task checked off the list, then I have the motivation to continue and get other tasks checked off the list as well. So maybe I will prioritize simpler tasks that take lesser amount of time. Once I get into that state, then it's easier for me to just, finish task and then like go to the next one and the next one.
That's interesting. I would love to try the snowball effect. I've never done something like that. I mean, I think it naturally just snowballs, but to be more conscious of it can probably be really helpful. So I might try that.
Yeah, interesting. Let me think of a couple of questions around productivity challenges and obstacles. Have you faced anything recently, and how did you go about trying to solve that, and how do you tackle that now?
Right. So since my work involves a lot of creativity and, just thinking on the go, or, trying to look at things at a different angle, a lot of times, you feel like you're stuck because you can't think of a new concept, or, how else can I portray this information?
Right.
So then a lot of times what helps is giving myself like a 5 to 10 minute timer, and then I go through Pinterest or other inspo sites, and I give myself some exposure to new ideas, and then I'm able to better, implement them, or like try to mix and match and then come up with something entirely new. And that really helps spark my creativity. So it really helps me in times when I feel like a huge creative block.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to get out of a rut and to just get your brain flowing. What about you, Quinton?
I've kind of associated coffee with productivity. So whenever I tend to have a sip of my coffee, I tend to lock into that flow state or lock into work primarily. Because I think associations that way do a lot of help, because from the greats, like a lot of people, especially the author of Productivity Mindset, has mentioned that when you associate things with productivity, it really helps your overall, the way you do things, the overall efficiency, right? So, for example, how I do it for coffee, some people might, associate it with their favorite beverage.
Yeah.
They might just go like, okay, today I'm gonna. If writing is something that's tough for me, and I want to motivate myself to do it, I will then have my favorite beverage at the same time. The favorite beverage, dopamine, helps me get through the writing that I want to get done, right? So associations are really helpful, and that's what's kind of helped me. But this, we're talking more on the positive side. I want to know that when you guys are in a rut, like for example, you're feeling overwhelmed or unfocused, what is it primarily that you guys do in the midst of that helps you get back into that productive state?
I think it's writing down the thing that is a problem for me or a challenge that really forces me to think clearly and helps me break down the problem into the next smallest step that I can take.
Yeah, that's lovely. I tend to do that as well.
Yeah, that helps me a lot.
Okay, so is it like strict journaling in that way, or do you mean you just write the tasks, or you mentioned that you write what the thing that's causing a problem? How do you structure that? Do you write just, okay, this is the task that I need to do, this is the problem that I'm encountering with that, or do you write it in like a full sentence freehand paragraph and then it helps you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because apart from productivity tips and tricks, journaling is one of them. So is meditation. In terms of journaling, what I do in terms of productivity obstacles is not so much like a dear diary sort of a thing. I'll just write down what the problem is and just sort of force myself to think of it step by step. So if I were to take step 1 right now, what would that look like? And then step 2. So then it's almost like I'm drawing a set of instructions for myself, and that doesn't make the task look too difficult and it makes it manageable. But apart from that, journaling also helps. It helps you talk about or try to understand and think about your wins and your successes, but also helps you reflect what's going wrong, what's not working for you, what's working for you.
I like how she said breaking it down into smaller tasks, because to be fair, if you look at a task and you're already like in a bad state of mind, you're just gonna blow it out of proportion and think of it as this monstrous thing to do. So when you break it down into steps and like more bite-sized chunks, it's much easier for you to assess, the next steps that you can take. It feels less daunting, I believe.
Yeah.
What do you do specifically? Since you mentioned your work, of course, as we all know, has a lot to do with creativity, right? So what do you do when you're feeling overwhelmed, unfocused in the middle of the day, and you come to a point where you are feeling super overwhelmed, super unfocused? What do you do? What's your go-to at that time?
I actually have implemented something from this book. It talks about a reward system, and it's been working really well for me, guys. Okay, so my new favorite chocolate is Snickers, guys. I am on Team Snickers now, no longer on Team Kit Kat.
Mars?
No Mars, no. So on days, not every day, but on some days, I tend to carry a Snickers bar with me, and I put it on the table and I tell myself that I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to kind of, come up with inspo and stuff. And if I have something that's like a win moment, I just have the Snickers bar.
That's a motivator, yeah. Do you have a reward system like that for yourself?
Well, it's again connected to the coffee beverage lock-in. I mean, just the fact that I have that at the start of the day is a reward system in itself. I mean, some days when I don't have it, actually drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But I know that I acknowledge caffeine is not all that helpful all the time, and you can easily, desensitize to it eventually.
Yeah.
So you have to manage your caffeine intake as well. So anybody who's gonna try this, please ration your caffeine. It's going to be super helpful.
This was a great discussion. Thank you, Aarya, and Clinton, for sharing your productivity tips and tricks with us. Be sure to pick up a copy of The Productivity Mindset and boost your productivity today.